Oh, Jesus Christ. Did you see this meme?
Mother.
What?
Mother. Animals! You liberal, progressive, deranged animals. You are so hateful in your hearts to go out and shoot a young man who's never hurted anyone with Christian values, a young, beautiful family, a father, a husband, a friend, a son. You shot him. Why? Because you didn't agree with his politics? Because you didn't agree with his ideology? That's the reason why he deserves to die? You animals! You mother.
Is this real? She talks like a dubbed anime character. Oh my god. No, just work. Hold on. I'm gonna deactivate and reactivate and it's gonna work perfectly. Good job.
Right, then he...
Oh god. Wait, what was the link earlier when he said Hassan was crashing out hard today? On what? Surely it's over this time. Wow. With the Elon shit, I don't really give a fuck about... I don't care about Hassan right now.
You dismantle and destroy about some of his idiosyncrasies in their place.
It's the Charlie.
We don't have many people here yet. There are hard ideas, all right? And I'm going to be pushing for the next 6 months. These are not popular. Most of you are not going to like it. But I don't give a fuck, okay? I am the main character. My life is the main character. Or something, I guess. I feel like every single thing online now is understandable through the lens of what is it like to be a streamer or a YouTuber? And that is how the world works now. I don't know why it ended up this way, but I think that's what we have convened on. So I think that you have to analyze politics right now as such, okay? One of the things that means is understanding, all right? This is, in my opinion, a moral fight, but it's an optically effective one as well, as long as you frame it correctly, all right? When I'm fighting with somebody online, I've always said, if you want to roll in the mud, then we can roll in the mud. I used to enjoy rolling in the mud a lot. I don't as much right now, but I can still do it. And probably better than you can, okay? Because I am from the mud. That is from whence I came, all right? If somebody wants to go in on my politics, I'm going to go in on your politics. Somebody wants to bring up my past, like my gaming stuff or whatever, well, then I'll dig up your past for whatever you did for work. And if somebody wants to go on my family, well, then I'll go in on your family. Not only do I think that's fair from my end, I also will respect the same from the other end. The most recent example of this being, I think I talked shit about Tectone's dad or whatever. I don't remember what the thing was. And then he came back and he started talking shit about my kid. And I think my audience got mad at that. But in my mind, I think I went after his dad first. I understand I'm attacking my kid. It makes sense, right? This is a tit for tat. It's fair. Okay, I get it. Some people have a hard time understanding this. I don't care. I'm going to lean more into that I think this is a totally fair way that you keep things on the same level, you match your opponent's energy, both in tone, like if they're shouting, then fucking shout, and also in types of attacks. Number one. Number two, okay? If you bring things onto the battlefield, whether it's for attack or defense, okay, those things will take damage, and they should, because they're on the battlefield. That's what they're there for. Do not bring something out as a weapon if you don't want people to treat it as such, all right? What does that mean? That means that if you are a grieving widow and you want to make a statement about your dead husband, that's totally fine. I don't think anybody should do anything about that. But if you're going to weaponize that grief to recruit for your political movement, then it's all on the table for fighting over. Too many people are going to be silenced by this idea of you can't make fun of a grieving widow. If you think making fun of a grieving widow is disgusting, I kind of agree with you, but weaponizing her guilt to build your political movement is more disgusting. You're the one that is deploying her to the battlefield, so now she can get, her grief can be attacked on the battlefield, all right? I'm only saying this because this is going to be a huge talking point. I had it this morning. The Pure Show was absolutely fucking horrible. It was me and Piers Morgan, who is totally on the other side of this, and Anna Kasparian, kill me, and Andrew Wilson, kill me, although they did bring on at least, Jack Posobiec, fucking Quinta, kill me. What a horrible fucking panel. But this talking point, this will be the talking point going forward, and I'm sure they'll use it a lot here, is this idea of, oh my God, how dare you attack a grieving widow? Excuse me, if you're going to smuggle in a bunch of bullshit political arguments with her grief, then her grief will be attacked, of course. And that is, you cannot allow your adversary to escape the accountability of their initiation. Meaning, if they're going to bring it out first and they don't like it getting attacked, then you should tell them, hey, why the fuck did you do that? Any compassionate human being would never, ever have a grieving friend come out to the battlefield to fight with their grief. Unless you want them to, but you would tell a friend, hey, take a step back, okay? It's probably right now, just chill. You don't need to have this fight right now. Plenty of other people can do it for you. But if they want to come out and fight, then you're going to fight. And it's politics, so it's the game of the world. Good luck.
The Kirk Show. Buckle up. Here we go.
Hey, everybody. JD Vance here, live from my office in the White House complex and filling in for some...
This here is insane. Also, there's the third thing I'm going to be pushing. None of this is normal, and all of us need to collectively realize how unbelievably insane the entire environment that we live in right now is, okay? This is the Vice President of the United States, the day after we've flown the flag at half-mast, and I think I don't know what the exact, how you describe it, but apparently, can somebody tell me, was Charlie Kirk, like, the casket was escorted by military or whatever, and Charlie Kirk, or not Charlie Kirk, and JD Vance as well? What the fuck? This guy was a political commentator. There is no reason why he should be held up like he was some, military hero or, honor guard or public official. This is insane, okay? Now, it would be helpful for us if we could compare this to a recent assassination, and thankfully, we can. Well, I say thankfully, that's kind of a dark way to put it, but Melissa Hortman and her husband were state legislators that were assassinated by a political hitman in Minnesota, and then he went right to another house and he shot a husband and a wife who were also politicians, or one of them was, the husband was, and then had more Democratic politicians to kill. No talk publicly about any of these people. Donald Trump was asked for comment. Donald Trump said Mike Waltz was a pussy and he didn't want to talk to him. That's it. And then they lied about it. They said the guy was an employee of Mike Waltz. Some people spread the conspiracy that it was a Mike Waltz plan, okay? We didn't see any of that. These were for elected lawmakers, okay? We didn't see any of this insanity, so...
Somebody who cannot be filled in for, but
Waltz, not Waltz. Sorry, fuck. People keep referring to him differently.
In the White House complex and filling in for somebody who cannot be filled in for, but I'm going to try to do my best. My dear friend, the great Charlie Kirk. The last several days have been extremely hard for our country. They've been hard for me, hard for my family, hard for the countless people in this building who knew and loved Charlie Kirk. And of course, they've been hardest most of all for his darling wife, Erica, and their two beautiful children. Been hardest most of all for this building who knew and loved Charlie Kirk. And of course, they've been hardest most of all for his darling wife, Erica, and their two beautiful children.
Good one, Chief.
The thing is, every single person in this building, we owe something to Charlie. He was a joyful warrior for our country. He loved America. He devoted himself tirelessly to making our country a better place. He was a critical part of getting Donald Trump elected as president, getting me elected as vice president. And so much of our success over the last 7 months is due to his efforts, his staff.
Okay, hold on. Sorry, I want to say something real quick. Metatron apparently did a video. Maybe we'll watch that, I think, at 3. Somebody in chat said, I'm disappointed how shallow his political coverage was, given how in-depth his history stuff is. I had to unsub and question everything he does after his Destiny coverage. Okay, I'm not going to speak to his past content because I frankly, I just haven't seen it. So I can't say whether or not it's good or bad coverage generally in history or culture. I will say, I think I brought this up on a talk with somebody. I don't know if it was with Coleman Hughes or somebody else. Something that we've tried to do too much and that Republicans don't do, and I think this is a mistake, is sometimes we are scared to say what's right or wrong because it's associated with a certain political movement. And we're scared to take a definitive position on a thing because it might be associated with a political movement. And that causes a very corrosive thing in the mind where we believe that we can't talk about it in certain contexts because it's political. What I mean when I say that is in school, you can't, if you're teaching history or you're talking about some aspect of culture, it's considered rude or inappropriate or improper to tie it into current political things because you want to be relatively apolitical. Apoliticalness is a luxury of somebody not impacted by politics. Depending on how you live in this country, you do not have the luxury of being apolitical. Your history is not apolitical, and your existence on this planet is not apolitical. Definitionally speaking, if you live in a country, you are subject to its politics. There is no such thing as apoliticality. So sometimes people make the mistake of wanting to study history from an unbiased lens, and so they don't want to associate it at all with current or contemporary political stuff. I don't listen to his stuff at all, but I have huge props, mad respect for, is it Dan Carlson? Is he the guy who does the hardcore history? Is that his name? Because he was willing to make some stronger statements about it. I saw that on Twitter. Oh, Dan Carlin. I have respect for that. Too many people are too obsessed with the idea of, oh, I don't want to make this political, so I'm just going to talk about ABC. You know, the Nazis were a political party. That was politics, right? World War II was politics. You know, we made a decision to attack Iran recently. That was politically informed by the current leaders in the United States. The decision to drop nuclear bombs on Japan, that was politics. Our unwillingness to join World War I or World War II until we were essentially attacked first, it was politics. A lot of these decisions that are made are politics. You cannot divorce politics from everything else. You're sanitizing something so extremely to the point of almost saying nothing of value, or at least you're losing so much of the value by doing it. So you have to be very careful of that. Okay, sorry. These are just some things that...
And so much of our success over the last 7 months is due to his efforts, his staffing, his support, and his friendship. Now, I don't think that I'm alone in saying that Charlie was the smartest political operative I ever met. Everyone knew him as this fearless debater, this guy who would take the conservative message into hostile places and inspire younger generations to have courage. One thing that's hit a lot of those young Americans over the last week was how Charlie was there for them when others were not. When they were afraid to speak their minds, when they were afraid of what a professor would say, when they were afraid that they would be shouted down by their peers, Charlie was there, showing them that they could be courageous and that they could be bold. Charlie was a visionary. He was a luminary. He brought together people. He didn't just teach people how to speak. He didn't just teach people what to say. He didn't just teach people they could actually speak their mind on campus. He created a whole social network for an entire generation of young people. I know people who met their husband, who met their wife, who met the best man at their wedding at a TPUSA event. Because as you guys all know, it's not just about speaking our mind, it's about making friends along the way and creating that support network that won an election and that staffed the current federal government. I owe
I'm so glad I got rid of this 320. They're all using it now.
Much to Charlie. I've had friends reach out in just the last couple of days who sent me messages, screenshots, that they exchanged with Charlie in the run-up to me getting selected by the president as his vice presidential running mate. And it's such an honor to have people show me that Charlie said, we want JD to be the VP nominee. And I just had a conversation with the president, and I think things are actually going well.
Is this Vance trying to establish his image as Trump's successor? No, this is the cult establishing ownership over Charlie Kirk and his legacy to cast themselves as victims against the far left who they are blaming the shooting on. This is just like, it's making sure that there is an undoubted ownership over it so that every American can see that Charlie Kirk was part of MAGA and part of the right. And we have the vice president here to be a part of that so that you know that when the radical left attacked us, the 22-year-old white guy who was raised in a Mormon family from the state of Utah, who went to trade school, like all good conservatives do, that the leftists, that when they attacked us, this is who they attacked. They attacked you.
I think he's actually going to choose J.D. Vance. Do you know what it means to me that such a good guy, such a good friend, such a lion and visionary of our movement was advocating for me? So I wanted to use this show today to advocate for Charlie, to talk about him, to talk about what kind of a guy he was, to talk about what kind of a man he was, what kind of a husband and father he was, and to take people, most of them from inside the administration, but some of them from without, who knew Charlie best, and to talk about what he meant to them, what he meant to this administration, and what he meant to the conservative movement. I was very honored a couple of days ago, on September the 11th, 2025, to fly out to Utah, where Charlie was shot and killed, to meet his wife, to meet his mom and his dad, his sister, all just incredible people who didn't deserve to have this happen to them. And I was also honored to be able to take Charlie's remains from Utah to Arizona. It was an amazing, amazing thing. It was heartbreaking, and it was sad, and it was terrible, but what an honor it was.
Fuck. I'm sorry. Hold on. Just because I know that I watched some of Hutch this morning. I just want to be clear, I don't hate Hutch or Pisco. I understand like where these people come from, but we have lost some fundamental assumptions of how our society used to function. And you know what? Okay, hold on. I see the quote here, but I'll see what the clip actually says.
Always detrimental. It has also can have a benefit. Like it's not always detrimental. It has also can have a benefit. Like politically, you
right after a political assassination.
Well,
like literally in hours after a political assassination. Do you think that's the appropriate time to hash out the crime statistics?
Not exactly like.
You need conservatives to be afraid of getting killed when they go to events so that they look to their leadership to turn down the temperature. The issue is right now, they don't feel like there's any fear. Like, I don't know. It's like memes. It's just memes to everybody, I guess. I don't know, bro. I don't know. I don't care. I'm playing video games. Okay, I'm done today. I don't give a fuck. God, it's gonna be so fucking gay if I get killed in the next fucking 2 months of shit. True. Well, the cuck shit out here. Please don't anybody make any actual fucking, the most cucked, weak ass, fucking bullshit ass speech. Okay, this is basically the gist of it. Everybody understands this. Where's Jordan Peterson at? Jordan Peterson, underlying violence. Where is he? I'm not gonna be able to find the same eye. Wait, is this?
There's a big difference between letting people do something for themselves
I'm not gonna be able to find this clip.
saying men should be dangerous. By dangerous, that implies I should be ready to threaten someone, to hurt somebody.
No, you should be capable of it. But that doesn't mean you should use it. There's nothing to you otherwise. Like if you're not a formidable force, there's no morality in your self-control. If you're incapable of violence, not being violent isn't a virtue. People who teach martial arts know this full well, right? If you learn a martial art, you learn to be dangerous, but simultaneously you learn to control it. Both of those come together. And the combination of that capacity for danger and the capacity for control is what brings about the virtue.
Okay, he's talking about the virtue of being nonviolent here. It's a little different. There is a lot of Peterson's older presentations, in my opinion, were pretty good. Everything new is garbage. His brain rotted. But basically the idea was that when men talk to each other, there is an underlying, and to some extent, I think back then when I listened to this, I said this is stupid, but I think it was because I was taking it for granted, but also it just wasn't a thing as much because our country wasn't so fucking insane. I know that I can't go up to a man and say whatever the fuck I want, right? Or if I do, I know there are certain things I'm gonna say where if I say some certain shit, we're gonna fight, right? I know that. I just know that's gonna be the case, right? Everybody knows this. Every man knows this. Some women learned it the hard way. Sorry, just kidding, half kidding. People know this online when they say shit like, you wouldn't say this in real life, kid. You wouldn't say this in real life, punk, right? Because the idea being that you know that if you say this, some shit's gonna happen. Now, to some level, that's kind of, you could argue that that's kind of toxic. But on another level, there are some guardrails that guide us on socially acceptable behavior, right? Another argument I'm going to be making a lot, I've made it a little bit, is this idea of a chilling effect. People always talk about chilling effects like they're bad. They're not always bad. Criminal laws and punishments ideally chill some criminal behavior. Certain social conventions or the threat of violence can chill some antisocial or violent behavior. It's not always a bad thing. When I say that people should be afraid, what I mean is that if I were to go into a crowd of people and take out my gun and point it at somebody, I personally would be afraid. I would be afraid that I'm going to get killed because I'm aiming a gun at somebody. That's a good fear to have. I should have that fear because if I'm pointing a gun at somebody, well, I could potentially kill them. I should feel like they could potentially kill me. If somebody loses that fear if they feel invincible and they're fearless to threaten or enact violence against another party, that's a very bad feeling to have because it leads to more violence for everybody. It's not good. There should always be something in the back of your mind that makes you like, ooh, if I would have wild out right now, if I were to go crazy, I would probably get my ass whipped, okay? Or somebody would kill me, right? That's an okay feeling to have. And having an antisocial, violent person or community in an area where they feel like there is no accountability is not good. It's very bad. It's not good because it makes it worse for everybody.
For me and my family to be welcomed in to the Kirk inner circle at their moment of grief. There are a few things that I want to talk about just from that moment. First of all, when I first met Erica, his lovely wife and such an incredibly brave soul, I'm not sure if you saw her remarks after Charlie died. If you haven't, I would encourage you to go and see them because you see this raw grief and incredible courage all in the same moment. And that's what we need right now. We need to grieve, but we also need this courage in this moment more than we've ever needed it. She gave me a hug and she was heartbroken, as of course she would be. And she said that she loved him so much. And I said, Erica, he loved you so much. He died way too young, but he died a happy man because of you, because of the family that you gave him, because of the home and the life that you guys had built together. And we sat for about an hour and we talked about Charlie. And, you know, in these moments, you don't know what to say. I'm a person who literally speaks for a living and I had no idea what to say. And I didn't try to console her because how can you console a person who just lost a loving husband and father? But we just talked about Charlie. We talked about who he was. We talked about some of our favorite stories. We talked about some of his idiosyncrasies and all the things that made Charlie Kirk who he was.
It feels like even after Kirk's death, the pundits aren't scared. Is it just because they feel they can capitalize on it better? I feel like as a grifter, I just take my bag and dip. Well, one, a lot of these guys don't do super public events. Two, people like J.D. Vance have Secret Service protection. So they've got an entire agency inside the White House that is dedicated to their safety and security. 1, 2, 3. This is kind of the darker version, but they hold a lot of the executive power right now in that if things were to go to, like some kind of full-scale violent conflict, he's the commander-in-chief. President Donald Trump controls the military. So would they invite it, that kind of fighting? I mean, if they were to ever have it, now would be the time to do it, And
she said something to me that I will never forget. My wife was there. It was just me and my wife on my side, and then a lot of people from the Turning Points family, a lot of people from Charlie's family. And she said to me that Charlie never raised his voice, that he never cussed at her, that he was never cross or mean-spirited to her. And look, I'm a husband. I'm proud of being a husband. I think that on the great balance of things, that I'm a pretty good husband. But I can never say that I was never unpleasant with my wife. I can never say that I've never raised my voice to my wife. Like most husbands, even the good ones, we're sometimes imperfect. And
people like Hutch need to understand that Dems need to control the narrative right away while the cement is wet. I feel like he thinks the left is avowing is being heard. Meanwhile, Trump is going after news orgs and media apparatus with lawsuits. Correct. The problem is when people always say, not now, not now, not now. The reason why Republicans say this is because they know that now is the only time that matters. That school shooting that happened on the same day that Charlie Kirk died, no one will ever know anything about that. No one's going to talk about it. It's not going to get immediate. No one cares. That's like literally memory hold. Nobody cares. That's gone. You have a moment in time, especially now, as the moments in time are getting shorter and shorter and shorter because of TikTok, the internet, the news cycles, whatever else, right? Your moments in time where the public attention is captured on a particular topic is very, very, very slim. And Republicans aren't counting on you. Hey, we need a 3-day break. We just had our own guy get shot and killed. Can you guys please all disavow while all of us call for civil war and blame you for it? It's like, okay, that's fair, right? We'll be humans, I guess. And then 3 days later, okay, we need to talk about what's going on your guys' side. What? I don't know. Okay. And then they move to the next thing. It's like, oh, okay. That pattern has played out over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. How many debates do you see me have with people where they roll their eyes when I bring up the Gen 6 stuff and they go, oh my God, you're bringing up Gen 6 again? Bro, we've moved on from that. Moved on from that? Less than a year ago, you guys pardoned every single person associated with it. Also, moved on from that. If we've moved on from that, why the fuck do you still bring up all the violence of BLM? They haven't, and they know they haven't. That's a game that's being played on their end, right?
I took for that moment that I needed to be a better husband and I needed to be a better father because of all these moments that I shared just in the last few days, the books that I've read to my kids, going up to their bedroom and kissing them.
Do you think in this show, are they going to recognize any of the Democrats or lawmakers that said that the violence is unacceptable, that said we need to turn down the rhetoric? Any of them? And number one. Number two, are they going to call on Donald Trump to say that he should call for a cessation in violence, that he should call for both sides to bring down their, I guess, weapons?
And hugging them before bed, I just realized that all of these moments that I get to have, Charlie is not able to have them anymore. And Charlie's kids and his beautiful wife are not able to have them anymore. And maybe the best way that I can contribute and the best way that I can honor my dear friend is to be the best husband that I can be, to be the kind of husband to my wife that he was to his. We talked all the time about the most important thing you could do is not vote for a particular candidate. It was to become, if you were a young man, a husband and a father. He talked about the joy that came from fatherhood, the joy that came from raising a family and being part of their growth and their development and all the incredible things that happen when you get to be a husband and father. And that is the way that I'm going to honor my friend, is to be the very best at that most important job that I can be. But that's not the only way that I'm going to honor Charlie. And there's going to be a lot of discussion over the next 2 hours of this radio program about what exactly that looks like. It's important, and Erica asked me this, to make sure that his movement, the movement that Charlie started, has to keep going. We have to build upon it. We have to add to it. We have to make sure that the next generation of young people feels confident and courageous to speak their mind and to speak the truth. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about why do we do this. Of course, we do this so that we can enact good public policy and take back our country. We're going to talk with senior officials of the administration about what we're trying to do to honor Charlie's legacy in that way.
Did you listen to the critique by Hutch? He said Republicans are losing heart in local elections and that we don't disavow violence to get votes, but because it's the right thing to do to bring down the temperature, even if it's unfair. It doesn't bring down the temperature, number one. Number two, remember my critique on the election. When Republicans say we won huge, okay, they're wrong, all right? However, when Democrats say, well, they barely won, it's not like it was that far off, they're also wrong, okay? Both sides are wrong, but for totally different reasons. Republicans like to act like they have this massive consensus built across the United States and that so many people are in love with Trump and the Republican Party. That's bullshit, okay? They barely won the election. It was a plurality of the popular vote, not even a majority, a plurality of the popular vote. And they happened to win the 7 swing states, but it was with like a 250,000 vote margin, okay? I think across all 7 states. It was like less than 350,000 votes, I think, okay? Now, they present that as a massive majority, but that's not true. Now, on the Democrat side, it might be, and depending on who I'm arguing with, right, I'll say, well, it wasn't a landslide victory. But the reality is that should have been a 48, 49 state landslide to Kamala Harris, right? If a convicted rape, oh shit, I was trying to be hyperbolic, but I realized that applied to Trump. If Hitler came back from the dead and ran in an election against fucking Jesus Christ himself, okay, and Hitler were to lose the election by 1 swing state, you would never walk away from that election feeling like you'd accomplished something good. You would walk away from that election feeling like something is deeply broken and rotted and corroded in your country. And the feeling should be the same for Trump. Like, did Democrats win in 2020? Yes. Was it because Donald Trump, tried to overthrow the country and everything else? Well, no, we didn't even vote on that technically, right? January 6th was after the election, right? Definitionally. We probably won on the inflation stuff in the economy, 2024, when it was time for voters to tell us, how did you feel about all of the illegality? How did you feel about Jan 6? How did you feel about everything else? Well, they said that, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say inflation, on the on COVID related stuff, probably, right? The voters said they didn't care. They didn't give a fuck. So while it might be the case that even if we win the next election, even if we win in 2028, which I still think we will, assuming we still have elections, I still think we're going to win. I think we're going to win midterms pretty well. I think we're going to win the next presidential election pretty hard, I think. It should be deeply concerning that half the country right now is okay with where we're at. And there are two groups that you can criticize here, and both are equally bad, even though some people say the latter is not as bad as the former. You've got the very politically incentivized group, or the very politically involved group, who say, oh, well, I know a lot about politics. Like, how the fuck can you support this? Rightfully, those people are condemned. Then you have people say, well, you don't understand, Destiny. A lot of people don't really follow politics that closely. A lot of people don't know about a lot of this shit. I do understand that, and I do know that, and I fully accept that. That's almost worse, right? It can't be the case that 10% of the country is driving us to civil war and the other 90% is just disaffected or disinterested. That's a failure in democracy. Remember, okay, we don't pass down political titles through family name, and we don't have an oligarch or what other type of royal, familial, non-democratic system to install new leadership. Every single person, that means you, that means the crazy dude down the street, that means Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Everybody goes to the ballot box and one person has one vote. We all have an equal say on who our next leader is. Democracy is somewhat reliant on the public following at least something related to what's going on in the country, okay? And other people's lives, not even necessarily your own. Maybe it's the millions of people who relied on USAID. Maybe it's people in the country who's relying on funding for future medical research. Maybe it's people in other countries who look to the United States for leadership or guidance on conflict. It could be the people dying in ditches in Ukraine. It could be children dying in Gaza of starvation. Everybody is looking to the U.S. voter for the direction that the United States is going to take in the world. It's not acceptable to say that people are just totally so disconnected that they can't have any mind for it at all. If that is the case, then the experiment for American democracy fails at this point, and then we move to another form of governance, right? We would say at this point, the system is too complicated, that the average voter can't be entrusted to responsibly vote for leadership, and you need something different at that point, which might be the case. I think that would be sad, but that might be the case. Maybe this kind of government is untenable in a situation that's this complex. I don't think we're at that case yet. I think that our media environment and our leadership in that environment and our political leaders, I think, can change. But yeah.
Of course, we have to make sure that the killer is brought to justice. And importantly, we have to talk about this incredibly destructive movement of left-wing extremism that has grown up over the last few years. And I believe is part of the reason why Charlie was killed by an assassin's bullet. We're going to talk about how to dismantle that and how to bring real unity that can only come when we tell the truth. And everybody knows that they can speak their mind about the issues of the day without being cut down by a murderer's gun. We're going to talk about all of those things.
Wait, real quick, because I called out Posobiec on the show. That's a really brutal show. I don't think I look good. It's just unhinged. Dude, that was a horrible show. Jack Posobiec said that he got killed with a bullet that said anti-fascist or whatever on it. He got killed by the Bulgy-Wulgy bullet, right? Was I wrong on that or right on that? Because I laughed at him and I told him he didn't get the bullet right. He's so performative. It was the Bulgy-Wulgy bullet, right? Okay, thank God. All right. What a horrible fucking show. And I have Anna Kasparian and Andrew Wilson on the panel, and Anna was the one trying to bring up all the weird personal attacks too. She's actually so brain broken on Twitter. I cannot believe this woman's whole political ideology is now redefined based on who bullied her on Twitter. It's actually unreal to me.
Friends of Charlie, with people in the administration, with people that he knew. On a podcast a couple of months back, Charlie was asked about how he wanted to be remembered if he died. His answer: I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be.
How are people blaming the Groypers for radicalizing people while not acknowledging that radicalization was the same goal as Kirk? How is it that the left is not drawing connection between Trump and Fuentes while the media connects Robinson/trans? The trans connection is just so tenuous and desperate. Bro, they would have found a single trans kid in this guy's friends list in order to say that he was like trans radicalized. At this point, has anybody released any info? Did he actually live with that trans person ever? Is that even confirmed? Does anybody even know that yet? Or are we still just going off word from the one reporter? We went from trans shooter to trans bullet to trans virtual roommate? Because he did virtual classes, right? We don't even know if they're trans, actually. I don't even know. Yeah.
A couple of months back, Charlie was asked about how he wanted to be remembered if he died. His answer: I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be the most important thing. The most important thing is my faith. And that was Charlie. And in this dark moment for our country, I think that's the greatest lesson any of us can take from Charlie. To have faith in the Lord, and to be bold in how we glorify him. To be bold in our pursuits as Charlie was in his. So that's what we're going to spend a little bit of time doing this afternoon. Keeping this incredible show he created going and hearing from some of the people who were so fortunate to call Charlie a friend. We're going to pay tribute to his courageous legacy, and we're going to commit to keep it forever alive. I'm looking forward to this. Join us.
Destiny, stop being retarded. You can move into uni-associated housing semester 1 and have several roommates. This is very common. I have no idea what your statement is supposed to say there. Do you think I don't know that there is dorm housing on campus? That's what I initially thought, but then somebody corrected me and said that they did remote schooling, that he didn't even go to college because they did remote learning because it was COVID. I don't even know if he was in a dorm. That's why I asked. If he did all online classes or whatever, I don't even know if he even shared a room with any of these other people. I have no idea. I don't think there's been any statements made about that. Somebody said Cash tweeted it. Correction. Cash Patel tweeted out a picture of a fucking Fox News article. This is unbelievable. Holy shit. You're not beating the stereotypes, Captain Indian Immigrant, when you're running the FBI like a fucking call center. All this guy did was accept a phone call from the fucking dad. That's the only work they did. Okay? Are you fucking kidding me? And now he's quoting Fox News articles? Give me a break. Really? The bagpipes?
Why would he see him? Why would he see the person who's in the chat before talking about war policy?
So, time out. Just so we're clear, I'm sure you've been added to group chats with 30 or 40 people sometimes, and you enter in with trust that every acronym is actually a government official. Obviously, that will not happen again. Just so we're clear, Signal was an approved chat by the Biden administration. It's an approved secure channel by...
I'm not talking shit.
He's lying. These are all lies, right? Lies, lies, lies. Lies on obfuscation. He lies the same way that... the way that Taylor Lorenz lied to me in a conversation, right? Signal was an approved government communication thing. Yeah, that is true. That is true. It was. The same way that chemotherapy, it can be, different types of chemo can be approved treatment for cancer. If your doctor gives you chemo when you have a headache, you would call the doctor a fucking lunatic. Signal was not approved for secured, classified, SCTSI, military ops conversations. Those are supposed to happen in SCIFs. That is a lie. It's a misdirection. It's a lie with a truthful underlying fact, but it's an avoidance of the question. Signal was not approved for these types of communications.
Is actually a government official. Obviously, that will not happen again. Just so we're clear, Signal was an approved chat by the Biden administration.
Even what he's saying,
See him. Why would he see the person?
even what he's saying betrays an utter. I need to stop saying misunderstanding or incorrect. He's lying.
Person is in the chat before talking about war
Okay,
policy.
So, time out. Just so we're clear, I'm sure you've been added to group chats with 30 or 40 people sometimes, and you enter in with trust that
No! This is one of the most fundamental layers of operational security. You do not trust. This is why you work in secured areas. If you had trust with everybody, there would be no need for operational security. What a stupid fucking statement. Well, I'm sure if you were added to a group chat with 30 people, you would trust them all. No! That's why you're in SCIFs.
every acronym is actually a government official. Obviously, that will not happen again. Just so we're clear, Signal was an approved.
Also, I don't even know if it was it Jeffrey Goldberg? I keep saying that name. Was he the guy who was added to the group chat? I don't even think he had. Did he have he wasn't like dressed up, like his account wasn't hidden or like put his like FBI, NSA, CIA, was it? I think it was just his name, wasn't it? Where's his idea that that he was added? He's making it sound like he snuck into this chat.
Chat by the Biden administration. It's an approved secure channel by
I'm not talking shit on Signal.
However, time out. Let me ask a question about Pete Hegseth.
So we lie, and now we pivot to something different. Nice.
Would you rather have a warfighter or a bureaucrat run the United States military?
A warfighter? Was Hegseth even in the military? Was he? He might have been. I don't know if he's managed any large military operations or anything. What is that? What was Hegseth? Was he in the Army for 4 or 5 years? I forgot. This is our general. Oh, National Guard. Based.
I would rather have somebody that doesn't have a history of alcoholism. I'd rather have somebody that, I mean, realistically.
Wow. So do you think how about Mark Milley and Lloyd Austin, were they better at running the U.S. military than Pete Hegseth?
I mean, I think you're going to probably start talking about how there's higher enlistment numbers.
Yeah,
under
not only
Pete
that.
Hegseth.
But also, this whole thing is a diversion anyway. Nobody is, like, he's taking the bait on this, unfortunately. Do you see how good it is when you get to dictate the battlefield? I need you to, there's another point I'm going to be pushing on a lot, okay? When you're on the defense, you can never, ever, ever win. Is it tennis or Pong? What am I thinking of? Where if you're not serving, you can never score a point, right? Am I making that up? Was that just high school? Like, it's only the person who serves that can score. If you successfully defend, then you get to serve next, and then you get to score a point. What am I thinking of? Is that table tennis? None of both? What am I thinking of? Am I losing my mind? Volleyball? Is it volleyball? You were supposed to win if you serve in tennis, volleyball. I feel like I played some game in high school like this. Those are weird high school rules? Oh, well, fuck. Okay, never mind. Forget it. Delete that portion of the VOD. The point still stands. If you're playing defense, you can never win. You can only ever successfully defend. Okay, so when you're constantly on the defense here, even if he wins this argument about, I don't even know what he's arguing about now, the histories of the people involved, the point was supposed to be about the behavior on Signal, which was unacceptable. It was completely and totally unacceptable. Also, I say this thing a lot, okay? When I say that the news cycles are short, okay, that there are 3 days news cycles, that whatever else, and I say they're short, that's by design right now by the Republicans. Because remember, the emails, that was not short. We heard about those fucking emails for months. And nobody even gained access to Hillary Clinton's email server in an unauthorized manner. That didn't even happen. That didn't even happen. Whereas there was an unauthorized user, Jeffrey Goldberg, in the Signal chat.
So recruitment in the military is up majorly. Thank you, Pete Hegseth. He's doing a pretty good job. Number 2, procurement. We're saving money. Estimates are that we'll save hundreds of billions of dollars.
None of this even matters. None of this even matters. People are saying I'm thinking of pickleball. I know I'm not thinking of pickleball because I have no fucking idea what that is. It sounds like some bonger shit or some shit that I don't give a fuck about. And I hate pickles too, so fuck you.
Efficiency. War games are up. The amount of war games we're doing in the Southeast Pacific has increased by 30%. This is a military town here in San Diego. They have a massive increase in people wanting to join the Navy, want to join the military. That wasn't happening under Biden. Morale is actually 30 points higher now that Pete Hegseth, a warfighter's warfighter, is running the U.S. military.
We have a complete difference. We'll never going to agree on this.
No, not agree, but...
Like, do you see he's on the attack now, right? Even if he were to successfully defend some of these points, who cares? Even if Charlie Kirk was right on all these points, none of this excuses the behavior for a signal. Like, if you wanted to go on the offense and counter, right? Oh, Hillary's emails. Wasn't it better that Hillary had a private email server? What do you mean? Isn't that not allowed? Well, didn't the Russians hack the DNC and the DCCC? But they didn't hack Hillary's emails, right? Technically, Hillary's emails were more secure than all the emails on the DNC servers or the DCCC servers, right? And then you could argue maybe that they could pivot and say, well, the DNC and the DCCC, those aren't classified email servers, so it's different. It's like, oh, well, didn't the Russians already hack and leak like social security numbers and everything else? Maybe Hillary Clinton's email server is actually the most secure place for the emails. This is a retarded argument, in my opinion. But this is an offensive argument that at least keeps the fight on there. But this is like, you see, like, it's just attack, attack, attack. And then you never have to be held accountable. You never have to defend any point that you bring up.
Don't then prove the evidence. What is one number that is worse of the U.S. military now that Pete Hegseth's in control?
The numbers.
Look at that. What a great... How about the number of times a signal chat has been used to conduct official military operations? Maybe?
That you're talking about are numbers that I actually actively do not care about, because I think that we have an overly powerful military, and I think too much of our money goes to the military.
I know, but like, tell me one thing he's done, like numerically, like empirically, judge his performance. Right? What is one thing that you could say, wow, the Pentagon is in a worst place because of Pete Hegseth?
I would say his inconsistent foreign policy, where he backs on statements depending on whether or not Donald Trump has heard them or not. Like in the beginning, we were talking about what happened with Ukraine and Russia. Like, they've had disagreements already within the first couple months of the administration.
What? But first of all, the president is the commander-in-chief, so he executes the running of the military.
I'm just saying that
he's the operationals manager. Right?
I understand that.
And so when you want a military, you have recruitment going up, you have war games going up, you have morale going up. You have, by the way, how about this? Do you agree that physical fitness standards for men and women should be the same in the U.S. military?
Yes.
Pete Hegseth is to thank for that. He has brought physical fitness standards to be the same for men and women. Lloyd Austin didn't do that. Mark Milley didn't do that. Do you also agree that we should not have like transgender pronoun type policing of our military members on the front lines of combat?
See, the thing is
Pete Hegseth has gotten rid of all that. But I'm saying you're trying to make a
like. This was before he died, obviously, right? But keep in mind that we've gone from trans people are incapable of serving their country in the military, regardless of what the standards are, because trans people did have standards that they had to meet. They're incapable of it. We went from that to trans people might actually be Jason Bourne equivalents. And we think that there was a 6-member trans group that actually plotted and planned the Charlie Kirk assassination. Now you're making an argument for fucking trans Navy SEALs, right? We switched positions on that in one day because they don't believe in any of this, right? If the standards are so fucking important that men and women should match the same standards no matter what, okay, fine. Then if trans people can match the standards, then why the fuck do you care if they're trans or not, right? If they want to serve, let them fucking serve, no?
That he's not qualified. The military is in a much better place thanks to him only after 100 days, man. And that is the weakest example of all the ones that you have in the cabinet. You didn't address Rubio, you didn't address Noem, you didn't address Bessent, you didn't address Lutnick, you didn't address Bobby Kennedy, you didn't address all these people. So I have to ask you a question.
I can continue addressing people.
But every one of these departments is in a substantially and empirically better place than it was.
Okay, including the Department of Education that's been completely defunded, and somebody who literally...
I'm so glad it's being defunded.
Okay, I bet you are, but guess what? Most Americans aren't, and that's the reality.
Wrong. Donald Trump...
Yeah, just because you have a bunch of people here saying that doesn't mean that's the reality.
Let me prove it to you. Donald Trump ran on a pledge to get rid of the Department of Education. We can agree with that? No, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. He won a popular vote. The vast majority of people voted knowing that the Department of Education was going to get eliminated.
If you truly believe that the vast majority of people were educated enough about the fact of Donald Trump's opinion...
voters aren't very smart. Now that's what we're going after.
No, I'm simply just responding to what you said. What you said
Insult
is
the voters. They don't know.
No, I know a lot of people that voted for Trump who had absolutely no idea that he was going to defund the... And of course, this is just an anecdote, but I know that this is the truth. Not everybody, when they vote, looks at every single little thing and every little aspect like you and I might of why we would vote for somebody. Like, we're both political commentators.
Right, fine. And as a political commentator, then I will argue more forcefully against you, because now you're not just like a college kid searching for this. Has education in America improved or gotten worse since the Department of Education was formed?
It has literally been 3 months. I have absolutely no idea.
Since the Department of Education was formed in the 70s. We now have 50 years of evidence. Has American education gotten better since we've had a Department of Education, or has it gotten worse?
I personally don't think that has to do with the Department of Education.
Well, when you spend...
He says that, I haven't dug deeply into this, but my understanding is you need to hardcore separate out like college from K through 12. And conservatives love to combine these two things, but they're totally different. When you talk about like all the money the Department of Education spends and everything having to do with student loans and everything, this is like college-related stuff. Are we going to say that our colleges have gotten worse? Because our colleges were some of the like prestigious things of the world, right? Everybody around the world wants to come to the United States for our Ivy League schools. And we're trying to say that, the education's gotten worse at our universities? Really? Or are we having problems with K through 12 education? Because is that the fault of the Department of Education?
And when you've spent over
regardless of the existence of the Department of Education, remember, they have the ability, all the states control their own curriculum, period. They have, forever. The Department of Education doesn't dictate curriculum to anybody.
Personally don't think that has to do with the Department of Education.
Well, when you've spent over $4.5 trillion with one federal department, and we have 30 schools in Chicago where a fifth grader cannot read at grade level. We have 35 schools in Baltimore where kids cannot do math or reading at grade level. We cannot find a single school, not a single school in downtown Detroit, where by the time they graduate high school in the heavily black areas, that they're proficient in reading or math. We are now like 30.
Like, does the Department of Education control any of the curriculum or any of the educational outcomes in any of those places? Not really, right? If you don't talk about universities or colleges, maybe. Although the DOE doesn't dictate curriculum to them either, but that's where a lot of the funding comes from. But this is just a non sequitur after non sequitur after non sequitur. But congratulations, you got that random kid that stepped up to the microphone. Good job.
Welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show. This is Vice President J.D. Vance. Joining me now is Stephen Miller, White House Deputy Chief of Staff, dear friend of mine and dear friend of Charlie Kirk's. And before I get into the nitty-gritty of
nice audio management. And we've got Goebbels here as well. Thank you to manage everything. Here we go.
I want to talk with Stephen about, there's a lot of questions about the investigation, where we are in the investigation. I want to be respectful to the FBI's process, but just know that we are on top of this, and the entire administration is trying to do as much as possible to find everything that we can about what led to this, about how we got here, and of course, ultimately, how an assassin took Charlie's life. I wanted to zoom out with Stephen a little bit and talk about all of the ways that we're trying to figure out how to prevent this festering violence that you see on the far left from becoming even more and more mainstream.
Oh, on the far left. True. Yes, true. Thank God we're here to talk about that.
Before I do that, Stephen, I want to do this with every guest because you're a friend of Charlie's, and one of the things I'm hoping that people get out of this is an understanding for the kind of guy that Charlie was, who he was. And so before I talk to you about what we're doing to try to prevent something like this from happening again, maybe you could just talk about why you love Charlie, what memories you have of him, something that would give our audience a sense of what he was behind the microphone.
A sense of how important he is to the cult, and that all of us see ourselves as one unified entity, and how humanized this guy is, and how demonish or demonic and horrible the left is for attacking him. True.
Yeah. I've known Charlie for 10 years. He was a treasured friend. And it's going to sound, he made you believe more in yourself, is the best way I can put that.
That's right.
He was your biggest cheerleader. He would, if I was working on a hard project, an important executive order, a major new initiative, he would give me the strength and the focus to get it done.
That's right.
He was everybody's supporter, enthusiast, cheerleader, promoter. He made all of us better every single day. The memory that I keep turning to is not a single memory. It's a period of a couple months after we won the election. And Charlie was in the campaign or the transition office every single day. And from dawn till dusk, volunteering his time to get into the weeds, the nitty-gritty of government. And he was so damn excited. I mean, it really hurts to think about it right now. He was so excited about all of us being here. And we would be talking about every executive order, every new regulation, every new policy plan. It was such a thrill for me to get to spend a few months of my life, because he came from the nonprofit, the activist world. I came from the government world. And in this transition, to be able to work hand in hand, take all of his ideas from being the leader of TPUSA, spending time with college students, spending time with activists, and then be able to be with us at the transition to plan out the next step of our government, that was an experience for which I will always be grateful. And the last thing I'll say is that, to my earlier point, Charlie would send me messages all the time, just saying, great work, or here's a new idea, or here's what I think will take this to the next level. And I took them all to heart. And
somebody mentioned this. There really should be more damaging penalties for major news networks publishing disinformation, perhaps a leaderboard with a tax rate for each news network corresponding to how much utter nonsense they spewed in such shameless fashion. The problem with stuff like this is because people are both siding so hard, the left both sides because they believe in it, and the right weaponizes both sides to attack the left. The problem is that when you have fact checkers that come down harder on one side, everybody just assumes that they must be biased. Right? This is why we got rid of fact checking. Okay, we can't accept the fact that COVID wasn't created in a bioweapons lab to infect us. We can't accept the fact that maybe mRNA vaccines were actually a miraculous improvement in science and not something that the Jews or some other nefarious pharmaceutical company pushed on us to poison us and kill us. We can't accept the fact that maybe Russia did have a massive hand in engaging in foreign fucking psyops and shit into our domestic politics. Maybe it is the fact that climate change is probably a real thing, and it's not caused by Jewish weather machines in the Gulf of America that are causing hurricanes to hit red states. We just can't have. The problem with fact checking is if you would bring out any fact checker right now, it would obliterate the Conservative Party because they live in delusion. How can you introduce any kind of fact checking without the Republican Party immediately revolting? There's a reason why Mark Zuckerberg went on, was it Joe Rogan, where he made the announcement that they got rid of fact checking, or this might have just been a Twitter video that he put out on his own. Was it on Twitter that he posted this video where he talked about how they were going to get rid of fact checkers because they thought that it was too biased.
Hey everyone. I want to talk about something important today because it's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram. I started building social media to give people a voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression, and I still believe this today. But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate.
Free speech, remember, there's several things about this. One, freedom of expression is the idea that the government can't criminalize behavior, okay? Now, you could extend that out more to we ought to have a vigorous public debate about policy and stuff. That's fine as well. Freedom of speech is not some deontological good that in and of itself, is a thing to be protected. Freedom of speech in a democracy is considered good and vital because from the freedom of speech, from people who can criticize the government or speak their truth about whatever social issues, from that, we engage in a dialogue that produces good for society. You would never say that freedom of speech is good if a bunch of people with megaphones were standing around every single other person screaming into it so nobody could hear each other, right? Freedom of speech is only a good, cherished thing in the US because of the outcomes that we feel that it produces. If freedom of speech just led to constant noise and the inability for people to govern themselves, then that country would fall and fail. And then you would necessarily move to some other system. This idea of an unlimited, I don't think we have an unlimited right for literally anything. We don't have an unlimited right even for guns. We don't have an unlimited right even for speech, right? Conspiracy is a type of crime. Nobody wants to talk about responsibilities when it comes to freedom of speech. They only want to talk about having an unlimited amount of it so that people on the right or some alternative media people can abuse the fuck out of it to lie to you.
About potential.
That's not freedom of speech. It's just the freedom to lie is what these people generally advocate for.
Several years.
That's why you're seeing now the right leading probably the largest mass doxing campaign to try to get people fired from their jobs. A lot of these people, somebody was sending me this shit. I was looking through earlier ones. A lot of these people who were literally just saying that they were literally just like quoting Charlie Kirk's speech and stuff. They weren't even like glorifying his death. They were just talking about how they disagreed with shit that he said. Then they're trying to get them fired from their jobs and excised from their communities.
There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political.
Wait. Destiny, I agree the right is more perpetrators of political violence, but the issue is the left is by far more okay with political violence. This is why we get stuck in the discourse. Everybody is okay with political violence. Again, people use politics sometimes to mean the thing that I don't like or don't care about. Everybody in this country, at the very least, 100% of the conservative party is okay with political violence. My guess is on the left, it's close to 100% as well. Now, I know there was some poll going around earlier showing like what percentage of people are okay with political violence. And I think for conservatives, I want to say it was like 20% said they were okay with it. That's just because they were too stupid to understand the question. Because if you ask conservatives, hey, why do we have a Second Amendment? They would say, oh, well, one of the most important reasons is it's a function that allows us to fight against a tyrannical government. That's political violence. And every conservative basically believes in the right to own firearms, partly as a restrictive measure against an over-encumbersome government that's trying to take away your freedom. So everybody to some extent believes in political violence. Yeah.
Push to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political, but there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there. Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation. These are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly. So we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US. After Trump first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote nonstop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy.
They were right.
We tried in good faith to address those concerns.
They did.
Without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased.
They are politically biased because one side is the one that's engaged in more lies. You have to be able to address the truth. How is it that your system that you create can address one side lying more without being accused of simply being politically biased, right? If reality favors one side more, what are you supposed to do there? Nobody's ever confronted with this question.
Have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US. So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system.
You want to talk about reality having an unfortunate liberal bias? Look at how much they keep trying to mindfuck Grok and how much Grok keeps spitting out a liberal reality every single time conservatives try to queue it up for questioning, right?
Second, we're going to simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse.
Unbelievable cuckening.
Guys, love the man so much.
He was our biggest supporter, Stephen, but he was also, if he disagreed, he would figure out how to get us to get where he wanted us to go. Yes. Always such a big cheerleader. Absolutely right. The darkest moments of my life, it was Charlie who was on the phone saying, don't let him get to you. Keep on fighting, keep on going. You're absolutely right. So I want to be mindful of time here. A lot of people are very worried about how we got here in the first place. And you have the crazies on the far left who are saying, oh, Stephen Miller and J.D. Vance, they're going to go after constitutionally protected speech. No, we're going to go after the NGO network that foments, facilitates, and...
NGO is always a virtue signal for deep state. It is the ultimate. It's become the new deep state obsessive term. What the fuck is an NGO? A non-government organization that does what? Charity work or activism or something? Why are NGOs the fucking demon? Call it a particular organization and say particularly what you don't like about it. NGOs have become this new stand-in for deep. I say new, but people have cried about them forever.
Engages in violence. That's not okay. Violence is not okay in our system, and we want to make it less likely that that happens. Walk me through, at a high level, like what you and I have been working on, what the whole administration has been working on to try to make sure that we don't reward and promote this craziness.
Yes. So it's an excellent question. I said this before, and but it bears repeating. The last message that Charlie...
when he speaks, notice that the audio is very slightly delayed by maybe 100 ms or something. The reason why you're hearing the echo is because he's got a lav mic on that picks up a lot of background noise. It has to because it's a lav mic and it's not like directional. What's happening is when Vance is speaking, he's speaking, and then Stephen Miller's lav mic is picking up the echo, and that's why you're hearing it twice. So the audio mixer guy's having to turn it down every time he speaks.
Sent me was, I think it was just the day before we lost him, which is that we need to have an organized strategy to go after the left-wing organizations that are promoting violence in this country. And I will write those words onto my heart and I will carry them out. If people ask me, what emotions I'm feeling right now, this is something people say, I mean, you kind of know the answer. There's incredible sadness, but there's incredible anger. And the thing about anger is that unfocused anger or blind rage is not a productive emotion.
Right.
But focused anger, righteous anger, directed for a just cause is one of the most important agents of change in human history.
I've said this before, and he's absolutely fucking right. And the conservatives are so good at directing their anger towards effective ends. They're so good at doing this. Occupy Wall Street did nothing because what the fuck were we mad about? Corporations are people? What the fuck does that even mean? BLM and all those protests were largely failed because why? What the fuck was the anger directed at? Abolish the police? The fuck does that even mean? What are we even going to do with that? And even the places that tried some of the defunding all fucking failed on it, right? The left, partially because of the leftists, the socialists and the communists who try to hijack so much of the conversation, their goal, their end is anger for anger's sake. That's all they want. They don't care about policy. That's why they don't try to win any elections. And then liberals somehow have allowed that to get hijacked, probably because they're trying to live up to some standard. Oh, Anna called me Trump deranged today. She's like, Destiny, you have TDS, your Trump derangement syndrome. What an unbelievable fucking cunt.
Probably showed that. Amen.
And we are going to channel all of the anger that we have over the organized campaign that led to this assassination to uproot and dismantle these terrorist networks. So let me explain.
The organized campaign that led to this assassination. Excuse me? What?
What that means. So,
30 seconds. Be quick, Stephen.
The organized...
You see, because his mic's not turned down. Hear the echo?
Doxing campaigns. The organized... So...
30 seconds. Be quick, Stephen.
The organized doxing campaign...
Fuck! I didn't mean to click that.
And a thing that you... and engages...
to plan out the next step of students spending time is every executive order, every new regulation from the government. It was an experience for which I will think.
So if he disagreed, he was such a big go after constitutional
organizations that are promoting violence in this country. The answer, there's incredible sadness, unfocused anger, directed for a just cause is one of the most important agents of change in human history.
Probably showed that. Amen.
And we are going to channel all of the anger that we have over the organized campaign that led to this assassination to uproot and dismantle these terrorist networks.
Number
so
one
let me explain what that means.
So what's the first thing?
30 seconds. Be quick, Stephen.
The organized doxing campaigns. The
organized doxing campaigns. The largest organized doxing campaign that I was aware of prior to the Charlie Kirk murder. Does anybody know who it was? Libs of TikTok. Yes. Libs of TikTok would post individual people's TikToks or Instagram accounts or social medias whenever she could to try to get these people kicked out of their jobs or fired or excommunicated from their fucking community or whatever, right? And now afterwards, it's this, I don't know, what is it, like Charlie's Murderers or something, .com, is this massive list of people who have said mean things about Charlie Kirk now.
Organized riots, the organized street violence, the organized...
Be quick, Stephen.
The organized doxing campaigns, the organized riots,
the organized riots. The largest organized riot in U.S. history was the January 6th insurrection. Donald Trump provided the motive. He riled these people up for a year, saying that there was going to be election fraud. He provided the means. Okay, he invited them all to a particular place, encouraged them all to come and work with organizations, because it was the one that hosted the speech was the Women for Trump or whatever. And then he facilitated on the day of, he gave them the direction. They went and they did exactly what he wanted. The idea that he's trying to sell you here, I don't know if you guys are aware of this or not, but the talking point on the right is that all of these riots and protests, the big ones, are all funded and organized by George Soros. Like, I laugh about it on stream and then you guys laugh, but I hope you're aware that when they say things like paid protesters, they legitimately mean that. Like, if I were to call my mom and ask her, Mom, where do you think most of the protesters come from? She would say, I think that the Clinton Foundation and George Soros pay them to show up. These are mercenary protesters. They get paid to go from place to place and protest. None of it is real. That's what these people think. When he says organized protest, that's what he's talking about.
Organized street violence, the organized...
Be quick, Stephen.
The organized doxing campaigns, the organized riots, the organized street violence, the organized campaigns of dehumanization, vilification, posting people's addresses, combining that with message...
Dehumanization, vilification, calling Obama, calling the Clintons, socialists and communists year after year after year after year. They've been doing this for my entire life that they've done this, okay? Posting people's addresses and calling for, like, why do you think Trump talks about the names of the judges in his cases or the names of, he even got, I don't think he got contempt. I think he got chastised for it and threatened for it. But when Donald Trump was saying that the daughter of the judge of his case was a radical or whatever, look, what do you think this is for?
Is designed to trigger and incite violence in the actual organized cells that carry out and facilitate the violence. It is a vast domestic terror movement. And with God as my witness, we are going to use every resource we have at the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, and throughout this government to identify, disrupt, dismantle, and destroy these networks and make America safe again for the American people. It will happen, and we will do it in Charlie's name.
Thank you, Stephen. Don't go away. I'll be joined by a guest of Friends just in a few seconds. See you soon.
Wait, what is the...
Malcolm X, you were involved in a controversy some months ago with your leader. Is that over? Well, I've been silent for the...
Wait, what is this? Will Patriot Front disappear immediately after we confirm Kash Patel? Yes, and what a coincidence that'll be. Weird prediction. If Kash Patel takes over the FBI, Patriot Front will disappear. Well, I don't understand what is the meme for this? Wait, Patriot Front marching through Huntington Beach chanting, say his name, Charlie Kirk. What was Patriot Front? Should I know about this? Is there some more fucked up shit that I haven't even heard of before? Destiny, that they are feds. They think Patriot Front is an FBI psyop. Oh, wait. So the meme is that when Kash Patel becomes the head of the FBI, that liberals will stop psyoping. Well-known liberal James Comey. Like, remember, even if it's just like you have to understand how unbelievable everything is. You have to understand how unbelievable everything is. Remember my Rob Noor debate. Crossfire Hurricane, remember what Tulsi Gabbard and the Republicans are trying to sell us now. Crossfire Hurricane and all of the Russiagate stuff was Obama intentionally trying to nuke Donald Trump's chances of being the president. However, none of this was publicly announced until after the election. Meanwhile, James Comey was the head of the FBI, who was also rigging it against Trump, but he announced Hillary Clinton's email investigation and updates and conclusions like 3 different times publicly and kept this in the media for months, right? Like, in what world was the FBI ever helping Hillary Clinton win that election? But any fact, anything can be spun when you're constantly attacking. We're constantly telling people to think anything can be spun to believe anything, to make the people believe whatever they want to believe, whatever you want them to believe. Yeah.
Come on, Brad. It's time to overthrow the government. What we doing? It's time to overthrow it. Overthrow it, man. White man, fight back. Go get a gun, Brad. Go get a gun. Fight back. Our streets! Our streets! Our streets! Our land! Fuck you all! Fuck you all! White man! Fight back! White man! Fight back! White man! Fight back! Fight back! Keep going! Our home! Take back our land! Say his name! Charlie Kirk! Say his name! Charlie Kirk! Say his name! Charlie Kirk! Charlie Kirk!
As the white population continues to be replaced with a population of non-white, non-American data, it becomes more and more dangerous for us here every day. Every time you go somewhere as a family unit, with your wife and your children, you're surrounded by people that look nothing like you and have to stay for you.
Maybe copium, but I feel like this unhinged MAGA response won't actually play well for them long term. The normies in my life are saying both sides need to be less violent, obviously, but there's a heavy focus on the right being completely unhinged against anyone remotely liberal. My girlfriend's grandpa has no idea who Kirk is, but a radio host they listen to is apparently getting canceled for saying he didn't know who Kirk is. Normal people are not okay with the right-wing response. I hope that is the case, but Donald Trump won the election again in 2024. You can go back and listen to me speak in 2021, 2022, and I said that I felt like that everybody was getting tired of the crazy Trump shit. And that's why like people were kind of like receding from that. But that wasn't the case, I think. What actually happened was we just had a reasonable president who was chill. And you had to try, I did say this a lot, especially 2022 onwards, you had to try so hard to get ass pained about what Biden was saying. You had to try so hard to get so mad about him. But they still managed to do it, right? I don't even want to say even at its worst because there was nothing wrong with this speech. Somebody said, what does this peace look like to you? What would you be content with? Tell us all about your wishes. I want you to know what you expect to happen. Remember this, the red picture? It's only red because of how it's cut up, right? It was supposed to be red, white, and blue, I guess, but obviously the framing on the camera fucked it up. But like from that speech, when has Donald Trump ever said anything as remotely uniting as this speech? This was supposed to be his most divisive speech. But together, we can choose a different path. We can choose a better path forward to the future possibility, a future to build and dream and hope. And we're on that path moving ahead. I know this nation. I know you, the American people. I know your courage. I know your hearts. And I know our history. This is a nation that honors our Constitution. We do not reject it. This is a nation that believes in the rule of law. We do not repudiate it. This is a nation that respects free and fair elections. We honor the will of the people. We do not deny it. And this is a nation that rejects violence as a political tool. We do not encourage violence. We are still in America that believes in honesty and decency and respect for others, patriotism, liberty, justice for all, hope, possibilities. We are still at our core a democracy. And yet history tells us that blind loyalty to a single leader and a willingness to engage in political violence is fatal to democracy. For a long time, we've told ourselves that American democracy is guaranteed, but it's not. We have to defend it, protect it, stand up for it, each and every one of us. That's why tonight I'm asking our nation to come together, unite behind the single purpose of defending our democracy, regardless of your ideology. Applause. Compare this to any speech that Donald Trump makes about talking about the radical left Democrats, Joe Biden and the auto pen. He can't do it. He cannot bring himself ever to make a statement even remotely as uniting as that. Why would
he see him? Why would he see the person who's in the chat before talking about?
Why do they have hard outs on a podcast?
War policy.
I don't need to watch highlights of retard debating. Good one. Good.
As a political commentator, then I will level. We have 35 schools in Baltimore where kids cannot do math or reading at grade level. We have that they're.
The Charlie Kirk Show.
Welcome back. This is Vice President of these United States, J.D. Vance, your host for today's Charlie Kirk Show. Joining me now, and I'm excited about this one, are a few guys who, like me, were lucky enough to call Charlie their friend. I have Taylor Budowich, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff. Kaylin Dorr, in the middle, is the White House Deputy Communications Director. And Andrew Colvett is Charlie's longtime friend and the executive producer of the show. Gentlemen, thanks.
Optically, this is such a difficult thing to overcome because trying to describe what a griper is to a Fox News boomer is impossible. It doesn't matter. Even if, and now it turns out that it's almost certainly not the case, even if the shooter was a radical left-wing person who was radicalized by the Democratic Party, even if that was the case, our president, the president of the United States, should still be saying everybody needs to calm down. Everybody needs to pull it back. Regardless, even if the shooter was an unhinged left-wing shooter. It's looking more and more like that definitely wasn't the case. But I mean, this would be the bare minimum expectation.
Thanks so much for joining me. Thanks for being a dear friend to Charlie. And I thought what I'd start with is, we all knew Charlie the man, not just Charlie the personality or Charlie the celebrity or Charlie the guy who did debates on college campuses. I want to start with you, Taylor. What's something that you wish people knew about Charlie that they don't if they just watch his clips on X or YouTube or wherever?
With Charlie, what you see is what you get, and I think that was true even from my first interactions with him on the 2020 presidential campaign. We would always be doing these fundraisers. Don Jr., Kimberly Guilfoyle, who was the Trump Victory Finance Chair, would host these big fundraising events. Charlie was always the first one to show up. And we would do these team events where we make calls all day. And you'd always want Charlie on your team because the guy would get there first, make as many calls, and he was the best fundraiser that we had. But you know, we have not just the privilege of being Charlie's friend.
Nobody's going to calm down regardless of messaging. It's past that. You are so unbelievably wrong. I understand why you think that, but keep in mind that Donald Trump was able to get his party to move past Epstein in a week. He absolutely could turn down the temperature on everything right now. A united front of Republicans and Democrats saying, hey, we've reached an unacceptable boiling point in our democracy. Everybody needs to calm the fuck down. The president doesn't approve of this. The political leaders don't approve of this. Nobody likes you. Nobody likes this. It's not cool. It's not good. Everybody needs to tone it down. From Trump, that would be meaningfully important. From the Democratic leaders, not really. I don't think it helps at all, unfortunately. And I don't even mean that insofar as it doesn't help that they're saying it and the Republicans aren't. I'm just saying that I'm not even sure where the center left radical like shooters and stuff even are. The most you could point to is maybe like the BLM riots, but like I feel like the radical left shooters are going to follow more of like the tanky communist shit anyway. Like the Bushnell guy that set himself on fire, that guy was a crazy pro-Pali dude, right? For the Scalise shooting, who was that guy? Did we know his background much, right? I don't know what his background was. Was it 2013? Maybe that guy was like radicalized by the Democratic Party. But like, remember, one of the key things that I hear people talk about with fascists, okay, whatever, but a lot of people do this, right, is where your opponent is simultaneously weak and strong depending upon, you know, what cloak you need him to wear for a given argument. So Biden was this bumbling idiot that nobody could follow anywhere because he was a loser, he could barely speak, but also at the same time was somehow inciting mass violence against the Republicans. Like he was this hero that was inspiring radicalists. Biden was, but he also couldn't even string together a sentence, and he was so senile. He fell apart in that debate. Like it can't be all of these things at once, right?
Friend, but seeing what he's built through Turning Point, and it became personal to me when my sister, who we're from California, and you know, is trying to find her way politically, and said, you know, I want to get involved. And we have the benefit of we can go to any.
Now, Dustin, you seem to care what these shooters thought. Meanwhile, the right just doesn't care. They make up whatever is convenient for their discourse. How do you win this? Well, I've already gone over how you win this. I just care because I think it's interesting to know, and it's good to know. Like if I felt like people were being radicalized on my end and went out and killed people, I would want to adjust my messaging. I don't want people to go out and kill people. I don't think political violence is good. I think it's corrosive to a democracy. When people start to kill each other, and people are afraid of getting killed, what a chilling effect on speech. It's not good. It's not good. Yeah. And if I found out that some shooter was like, oh, I watched, you know, Destiny and all these other liberals, and I realized that I needed to take up arms and go and kill conservatives, like, no, it's not really what I'm saying. And I would adjust my messaging accordingly. So I think it is kind of important to know. But
you things that you didn't necessarily see in yourself. He was a true friend in that way. And I remember, you know, one particularly difficult moment, probably the hardest moment on the campaign trail for me, when we had an event in Arizona, I believe with a bunch of faith leaders, and it was the one time on the entire national campaign where I gave my chief of staff a hug and apologized to him because I was just I hadn't seen the kids in 7 days.
This is all just like glazing.
What do you think is the most difficult part of replacing the great Charlie Kirk?
Well, I think, you know, you mentioned him being everyone's best cheerleader, and the last time I saw him, I have a lot of peace in my heart because I had a very good interaction with him, as we always do. I was wandering the hallways of the EOB, and I must have had
And that's when they tried to cut him down at his strongest.
Of native born, where it's 0.85%. 1 in 7 kids lives in a mixed status household. For 10 years.
You done?
That's pretty much.
5 years in prison. Okay. Now, I want to know, since it's a felony, law in the books, 8 U.S.C. 1312, what should the penalty be?
Well. Sorry.
Hello, everyone. Vice President J.D. Vance here. Welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show. So I am moonlighting as a radio host today, of course, in honor of my dear friend Charlie. And, I wanted to be like Marco Rubio. I wanted to add an extra job here as the radio host and vice president here in the West Wing, here in the White House complex. But I have another person here who wears many hats and is one of the most gifted communicators I've ever seen, right up there with the great Charlie Kirk. I'm glad to be joined by Carolyn Levitt, our press secretary. Carolyn, so good to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Very kind. I appreciate your saying that.
So why don't you kick it off and tell us a little bit. So those who don't know, who are listening or watching, you actually were involved with TPUSA very early on when you were in college. Tell me about that experience and about getting into Charlie Kirk through that forum.
Sure. Well, I'm a Gen Z conservative, so I was really raised within the MAGA movement, and within the MAGA movement as a Gen Z conservative means you're very much a part of the Turning Point USA movement. And so my political education was not just through the rise of President Trump, but also the rise of Charlie Kirk.
Yep.
And watching him and listening to him, and I inquired about starting a Turning Point USA chapter.
How the fuck is the whole admin here? What did I say? Remember, it's the verticality. The integration is absolute. Okay, it's important to their messaging.
On my college, St. Anselm College in Manchester, New Hampshire, where I went and where my political ambition and love of media and politics really began. And so just by watching Charlie from a distance was so inspiring to me as a young conservative woman. And then
now, because they're able to cast their side as being moderate somehow, well, because nobody can do politics, I guess, in the United States anymore, right? We're ignoring, like, what is she saying? Like, this is a person who was basically groomed and radicalized by Turning Point USA into being the, glorious leader's propaganda speaker in the White House, right? That's her job. But we can't even, approach that conversation because conservatives can't radicalize people and they can't groom people because they're not radical at all, so...
To know him personally when I decided to run for Congress, and he was a tremendous supporter and friend.
Right. So you literally communicate for a living. You're the person that speaks to the American people and the world on behalf of the White House every single day. Did you learn anything particular?
This is the person who told us that the IV marks that Donald Trump has all over his on his finger. I don't know what the name of this vein or artery is. You normally get injections in your vein, right? I think it's if you can't find veins in the arm because the person's skin is fucked or their veins are fucked or whatever reason you can't do it, right? We're told that the bruising that's caused there isn't from the IVs that he's certainly getting. It's because he shakes so many hands.
About the way that Charlie Kirk communicated with people. And what I always appreciated is that though he was very smart, and though you see all these clips of him owning people or of him getting the better of somebody in a debate, if you watched a full Charlie Kirk rally and all...
Destiny, you should go back and look at the very first time that Caroline Leavitt asked Donald Trump a question on the campaign trail. Wait, is there a link to that? Looking at Donald Trump. Caroline's and Catherine's, I'm giving you guys life advice. Caroline's and Catherine's that spell the name with a K instead of a C, always a red flag, okay? Just kidding. Or am I? It's like Stevens to spell their name with a PH. Fuck, I'm not gonna be able to find this, am I? On the campaign trail?
all of the Q&A. And I was just talking with Andrew about this off camera. 90% of it is Charlie being kind and being compassionate and offering moral support to people. What do you take from Charlie Kirk, the communicator?
They don't think right-wing radicals exist anymore. They are the moderates, and the Democrats are the radical left. I mean, there are more radical right-wing people, right? They're the Groypers, they're the Candace Owens fans, but the Democrats don't even try to accuse them of being part of the Republican movement. So the Republicans don't even have to disavow or fight with them much. That they just do minor infighting with them, basically.
Being kind and being compassionate and offering moral support to people. What do you take from Charlie Kirk, the communicator?
So many things, just by watching him and by being around him. But I think most of all, standing firm in your convictions and picking a fight.
Wait, hold on. I'm curious. I want to watch this. 2025. Oh, NBC archive video. Caroline Leavitt asks Trump question at 2015 town hall. 2015. That would have been 10 years ago. So she would have been, she's 28. Jesus. It's such an insane world that we live in. This is like anime ages. Okay. So when she was 18, she's asking, this is a college freshman, I'm guessing?
We're going to start with Caroline Leavitt, 18-year-old college freshman up the road at St. Anselm. She's got a 10 o'clock Spanish class, so we're going to let her go first.
Absolutely. Mr. Trump, as everyone knows, and as I personally appreciate, you're very honest and outspoken about a lot of different things. As my father would say, you call a spade a spade. However, many people criticize you for this, saying that you're merciless, ruthless, cold-hearted. What would you like to say to people who think you're too harsh to be the next president of the United States?
It's such a great question, and I had a woman the other day say, Mr. Trump, I love you, I'm voting for you, but are you a nice enough person to be president? I said, you know what? I really am a nice person. I give tremendous amounts of money away. I love to help people. I love people. And you see from upstairs how many people showed up to see me. It's not going to be, though, this time about niceness. It's going to be about competence.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I just had a brain click moment. I just understood everything about Donald Trump. Or not everything, but one thing I kept saying before was when Donald Trump was running in the primaries, there were these times where Donald Trump would lose a state to Ted Cruz or something, and he would act dumb. And then even when he would win, he would be magnanimous in victory. He would be humble in defeat. And there was this like brief moment in time where people on the left were like, well, you know, when Trump is president, maybe he'll be more chill. Maybe he'll kind of moderate and be like this great deal maker. Because he used to brag, people don't remember, but in 2016, he used to brag all the time about how he could bring Congress together to make deals. He used to brag about how, what did he talk a lot about? He always brought up like the corporate inversion something, I think. He would bring stuff up like this all the time about how he could figure these things out.
Corporate inversions, right? You've said this is a serious problem.
A tremendous problem.
Okay, so you've also argued that bankruptcy laws, you take advantage of the bankruptcy laws.
I have.
Corporations have done that. It's within the law. You take advantage. How are inversions different from taking advantage of the bankruptcy laws?
Well,
this is legal. Right. This is companies trying to benefit their shareholders. How is it different?
Much
This
different.
is 2015. I don't think he's running yet. But he would literally brag about being able to, he would literally brag about being able to go to Congress and get these things done. And I just realized what broke his brain so much. It was the same thing that broke Elon Musk's brain. Donald Trump is relatively narcissistic, relatively. However, a lot of people are not, this is going to sound really mean, but they're not built for politics. And when I say that, what I mean is that there is a lot of hate when it comes to politics. I ran into this with the Omaha mayoral candidate I supported, Mark Gudgel. I didn't even think about that when I started to get a hit piece written about me, and then it came out, I'm thinking like, fucking money. This guy gets no attention. You're going to be able to go on the media and talk and everything now because people are going to ask you questions about it. And he had like a huge breakdown because he was getting so much hate and he'd never gotten it before. I didn't even consider for a second. It's like, oh, well, this is politics, right? Donald Trump, prior to running for office, was a celebrity. He was on The Apprentice. Everybody loved Donald Trump. Okay. Nobody in the United States thought negatively about Donald Trump. Same thing with Elon Musk. Elon Musk was like the rich autistic computer guy that was, giving us electric vehicles and spaceships. And then he went into politics kind of and got brain broken. I don't think that people are, and I think this is probably healthy. There's a healthy human mind is not able to deal with that much negative feedback. And I think Donald Trump getting into politics, I think he probably thought it would be like The Apprentice where he could come in and be, I was going to say a Barack Obama, but not even, because the Republicans hated him too. You even saw Megyn Kelly reference that we haven't recovered since we had that Obama, since that fucking Obama was in office. We've never been able to get over that Obama. I don't think Donald Trump was ready to be that hated by one side. Elon Musk wasn't, right? It broke him too.
Especially when you know you have the facts and the truth on your side, but doing it with a smile. And that's something Charlie did so brilliantly and well. He would go to these campus reform events and he would say to the crowd, if you disagree with me, come to the front of the line. And I find myself doing that in the briefing rooms, picking on the reporters whom I know very much disagree with me and with the president. But as long as you believe in what you're saying and you have conviction in it and you have truth and the facts on your side, it makes it a lot easier to say it. And that's what Charlie did for a living. And I know he inspired me as a young voice for President Trump now, like you said, behind the White House podium. And, before every briefing, I always pray to Jesus Christ. And Charlie was so outspoken with his faith, and I will continue to be in honor of him. But I also think
that isn't even remotely true. People have been making fun of Donald Trump for decades. You don't understand the difference. If you're at a certain level of popularity, there are always going to be people that make fun of you, sure. But there's not like a coalition of people that are hating on you. Donald Trump, from at least everything that I saw, we could go look up ratings for The Apprentice, was almost universally popular in the United States when it came to The Apprentice. People loved that show. People loved Donald Trump on it. You're fired. Everybody fucking quoted these. It was an insanely popular show. He was a relatively well-received figure. When he was making cameos in movies, it was like, nice. Same thing, I think I would say similarly-ish to Elon Musk. Although Trump was more loved because he was a celebrity.
Charlie, and just how brilliantly he was able to combat the lies with facts and to do it with a smile.
Absolutely. So, I always think of Charlie Kirk debating sometimes these kids on college campuses and how the one part of your job that maybe would be harder if you went on college campuses is I think some of these college kids ask way better questions than the radicals do in the White House press briefing room. So that'd be like good preparation for you in a lot of ways. Yeah, exactly. TPOSA was actually the varsity. Now you're kind of the JV level with your opponents here, but you do such an incredible job. And you were, of course, not just the White House press secretary, you were also the main spokesperson during the Trump campaign. And what made, I want to ask how important Charlie was to also campuses is I think some of these college kids ask way better questions than the radicals do in the White House press briefing room. So that'd be like good preparation for you in a lot of ways. Yeah, exactly.
Like, again, we've gotten normalized to this, but this is not normal. right? He's attacking journalists asking questions in a press briefing room that's already been partially redesigned in the images of God Emperor Trump, right? Hey, Donald Trump. Hey, thank you for answering this question. I just wanted to know, are having conversations with Putin difficult when you have to drag your massive 42-inch cock around the room? Does that like interfere with the cell phone signals? Some people have said it's like a massive antenna, President Donald Trump. Ha, I hope I can suck on you later. Ha, ha, ha. Right? The amount of glazing, the insane fucking questions, the attacks against his political opponents. Remember, the attacks against Zelensky started not from Trump or Vance, but from some dick suck journalist who's like the husband of some other person or whatever in the room, right? It's insanity. And now he's still here attacking, right? Not like the radicals in the press briefing room who ask questions. They're radicals because they ask questions. This is the media. If you're a journalist, you're either a thorn in the side of the current government or you're public relations for them. It's one or the other.
Say was actually the varsity. Now you're kind of the JV level with your opponents here, but you do such an incredible job. And you were, of course, not just the White House press secretary. You were also the main spokesperson during the Trump campaign. And what made, I want to ask how important Charlie was to the victory, because there were so many events that we did with TPUSA where I would show up and they were incredible and the energy was off the charts. And Charlie would always tell me, whenever I went to Arizona, he'd say, don't worry about Arizona, worry about Michigan, worry about Wisconsin, we've got Arizona. Talk with a minute and 10 seconds remaining just about how important Charlie was to our effort to win and make Donald Trump into President of the United States.
Look, the president.
Somebody said, do you think being a streamer / online political commentator is good preparation for politics? No, I don't think so. I feel like politicking is a skill. Building a campaign staff, door knocking, building relationships with other political people. Like, I don't think it would be impossible to make the jump from doing like media stuff to political stuff, but I feel like these are very separate skill sets. They can synergize with each other, the media and the politicians. And again, like you can hop from one to the other. I'm sure there's going to be a crossover in skills, but the particular type of skill set and relationships that you build while running for office and building your political career, I think are a bit different than the ones that you do for media.
The president has said it himself. The president's massive gains with young Americans across the country was in no small part because of the efforts of Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA. And our team on the campaign was constantly checking in with him and keeping him apprised of what the president was doing and saying, because we needed his voice to relay that to his audience, which is made up of young people across the country. And the president spoke at many Turning Point events. He went into that lion's den at the invitation of Charlie to get his message across. And Charlie was incredibly supportive of the non-traditional new media strategy that the president took. And, the president loved Charlie deeply. You know that, Mr. Vice President, and I know that. And I know he deeply is hurt by this loss because Charlie played an instrumental role in returning the president to the Oval Office. And I just love that clip from election night when Charlie realized President Trump had won. And he was speechless for one of the few times in his life. There were no words, just tears.
Thank you, Caroline. Up next, the great Tucker Carlson joins me. We'll be right back.
Right back. I'm going to grab a Red Bull. One sec.
Are unnecessary administrators and paper pushers. And why is that important? Because we've not been funding teachers or education the last 30 years. We've been funding unnecessarily bureaucracy in our education the last 30 or 40 years. And President Trump goes to abolish it. Thank you for your time. I got to get to the next question. Thank you. Hello.
Hi. My name's Ellie. Overall, just to go into my question, I am conservative. So going into this, I was like, what should I ask you about? I think overall, I was going through different policies, and in general, I agree. Ultimately, I think the topic of my question is how to approach politics in school and in general with this function. I found that a lot of times, when I talk to people who are on the other side of me, they are surprised to find out what I think, and my ideas are not that crazy. It's like when you actually get into the meat of it, it's like, oh, actually, maybe it does make sense. And so I think it's really valuable to start giving these ideas to the world. So this is one of these options, but I guess my question is this the best way? Because when I hear, like, for example, on Reddit, they're like, don't approach him, don't do this, he's just doing that, he's doing this, he's doing that, he's using all these tactics. And so I wonder if you've considered, not to say that this is a bad way to go about it, but if there's maybe a slightly better way, because I think what you're saying has a lot of value in this world, but it's like in this school specifically, it is thought of as evil and is like not like a valid way to think.
That's a UC San Diego problem, not a Charlie Kirk problem,
no,
right?
and it's not to say it's a problem of you, no.
And meaning, like, and I read there was some op-ed journalist where they said, ignore Charlie, ignore him. But what they're saying is that they are not either smart enough or they're not intellectually mature enough to have a discussion with a conservative on any issue. I have literally almost no notes. I have like a couple charts to show you if the topics come up. You guys can use AI, you guys can use Grok, you can do whatever you want. You could bring a professor, you could bring 5 of your top libs together, debate me, right?
Yeah.
Right, other side? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And you guys can debate me at any time. I fail to understand why, well, actually I know the reason. Speech is not a left-wing value. And they do not believe in freedom of speech. They believe in totalitarian control. There are exceptions to that. So if they have a problem, I think this is one of the best ways, not the best way. I literally could not be more open to disagreement. I say if you disagree, you go to the front of the line.
Yeah.
And I mean, how often do you as conservatives get a chance to challenge liberals on campus, right? And being welcomed, ever?
Oh, absolutely, almost never. Definitely
Because
not in
speech is not a
class.
left-wing value.
No, but to say that, I mean, with all of that being said, it is very true. But ultimately, what happens here is I see a lot of like the ideas just being like bubbled against. And so like when I talk to my friends, their ideas aren't changed from these conversations. And so I wonder if there's just like a.
You would be surprised. I sorry to interrupt. What happens here gets seen hundreds of millions of times on social
absolutely,
media.
yes.
The crowds are growing, and so look, some people are going to remain closed-minded. They're not going to, have their horizons open. But that's on them, right? They have to actually want to pursue the truth and not just have their own worldview confirmed.
And then I guess that's where I disagree, because I think fundamentally there is truth within anything, and I believe that maybe I would ask you like to say, or to see that like you have a big role in this. You have a big fan base and a big media base that you are making incredible change. And to take it just one step further would be really trying to push the narrative against this being like a place where people are just like debating. It's more than that.
What would you like to see?
I guess maybe it's more of a question. I guess, I don't know, moving forward, like trying to maybe to see that like instead of using these really fast tactics and to really like try to bring it.
I'm gonna be honest. I just want to know if you got Gustav back. What the fuck? Also, why does the new guy that joins your party, why does he join at the same level as you, but he enters the scene like a complete badass? Seems a little bit. Gustav is gone. Oh, spoilers. Thanks for spoiling me. That was a rhetorical question.
50% of U.S. farm workers harvesting the food on our tables and fill 70%. Mass
is a misdemeanor, or it could be upwards to 5 years in prison. Okay. Now, I want to know 1312.
Okay, that is correct. That is 4 to 6 years out. Okay.
You done?
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
All right, so without looking at the phone, look at me. What should the penalty be for breaking into America?
I think there should be a system where it's more merit-based. So if this person...
No penalty. So what is the penalty? So what should happen
it's a felony. It's not a felony. It's a misdemeanor.
No, it is. That's not true. It's 8 U.S.C. 1312. You look it up right now.
It's a felony if it's done twice. If you try to cross the border, that is correct.
That is not correct.
I Googled it, dude.
To illegally go across the southern border with the well intent to come into harbor yourself into the interior of the United States, the violation of 8 U.S.C. 1312, which is a felony in the federal criminal code. Now, it can be enforced as a misdemeanor, or it can be upwards to 5 years in prison. Now, I want to know, since it's a felony, law in the books, 8 U.S.C. 1312, what should the penalty be?
Well, in my opinion, these kinds of like laws are usually they're what do you call it? They're
Does he mean 1231, or what one is he talking about? 8 USC. Does he mean 1325? I'm just curious what I just wanted to look up the law. Oh, I think it's 1325.
Sorry. Usually the sorry.
Improper entry by alien? Or does it say here that this is a felony or a misdemeanor? I should know this one because this is what they always cite. Any alien who enters or attempts to enter the United States at any time or place other than as designated by immigration officers or eludes examination or inspection by immigration officers or attempts to enter or obtains entry to the U.S. by willfully false or misleading representation or the willful concealment of material fact, shall be fined under Title 18 or imprisoned not more than 6 months or both, and for subsequent commission not more than 6 months. Is it really a felony? That sounds like a misdemeanor penalty, but I don't know if it's necessarily called out in every law, or maybe all of Title 8 are felonies. I don't know. Just curious. Whatever. Can't argue with them now, I guess.
Wait, sorry. Can I check my phone real quick? I apologize. Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
What should the penalty be for someone that breaks or comes into America?
Hutch responded to you. Hutch said, in what universe is the MAGA movement ever in a million years going to their leadership and asking them to turn the temperature down after a conservative is murdered? ? Dem leaders and people in a position of influence are not strictly appealing. Oh, and then I said, if they can never go to their leadership and ask them for peace, what chance do we have of doing it? This argument is self-defeating. Hutch says, Dem leaders and people in a position of influence are not strictly appealing to MAGA with condemnations of violence. That's the whole point I think your no unilateral disarmament philosophy fails to reckon with. The problem is that, I've said this before over and over again, if there are two people, it only takes one person to start a fight. For neither of them to fight, both of them have to agree not to fight. One person can't make the decision for both not to fight. It's not possible. If there are two people, it only takes one to start a fight, and one person can't not fight. There are 330 million people in this country. Most of them are kind of disengaged. Politics is in part a never-ending process of defining what your principles are as a movement/political party. You are not handing MAGA a W by simply saying political violence can't be the way people resolve their disputes. regardless of whether or not Trump has done his part to tone things down. And there's nothing stopping you from pointing out to Trump and MAGA's myriad escalations. You can and should do that as well. The issue is that the only thing that people see every single time Dems do this is, oh, another political assassination. Well, at least the Dems are disavowing violence, even though it doesn't seem like they're doing a great job at stopping it. And that's it. Are they disavowing it because it's their fault? Are they causing it? The Republicans are saying they are, and the Republicans are right that Dems keep calling them fascists and everything, even if they are. So, I mean, disavowing violence is a general attempt to reduce the likelihood of more violence spreading, which is a good thing to do unless you're advocating for an accelerationist strategy. Just to be clear, and I know that this is very counterintuitive, but that's fine because I'll be screaming about this for the next 6 months. One side disarming is the accelerationist strategy, okay? In the Cold War, if Russia or the United States would have completely gotten rid of their nuclear arsenal, you could argue that that would be a form of accelerationism because now you're just praying that the other side doesn't nuke you. I don't know if either side would. I don't think so, but for good reason, neither side's going to leave that to chance. And it signals to centrists/apolitical people that the party does not condone an act of murder like this one. That really does matter, regardless of how MAGA interprets the disavowals. I would argue that the election of Donald Trump in 2024 was a complete and utter refutation of this strategy. Donald Trump should have never been able to win an election after January 6th. That was a scheme from top to bottom trying to insurrect the government and come back in power. It required changes in how we interpret the Constitution for him to even be able to run again, courtesy of the Supreme Court.
America illegally. What should the penalty be?
I think there should be a merit system where the people. Okay, the penalty. All right,
that's not the answer. It's a very simple moral and legal question.
Okay,
what should the penalty be if you come into America illegally?
Okay, so since it's a misdemeanor, not a felony, misdemeanor.
I just told you it's not 8. You can look up on your ChatGPT. What is 8 USC? Look up what is 8 USC 1312.
No, I know.
I don't think it's 1312. He keeps saying that, but I think it was 1325. He should ask ChatGPT.
Already looked it up.
Yes,
when it's your second time crossing the border illegally.
You think Hutch would talk to you if you asked? Maybe, I don't know. When I looked at his thing last time, he said he was scared because everybody around me is like doxing people, and he got doxed hardcore by Keepy Farms last time we chatted, so maybe not. I will say I see you guys like in other chats and stuff. I think it's good to push on people in other chats. I welcome that. I would encourage that influence. I think it's good when you guys do it, but be chill, right? Like I said, I agree with Hutch on 99% of things, and not in the way that I agree with like Hassan or Vash on 99% of things. Like I think Hutch is like ideologically and motivationally and like endpoint aligned. Even same thing with like Pisco still. I think these people are like, so I think it's good to like push on it, but you shouldn't be like unhinged or like bullying people or harassing people or like, oh, you're a fucking idiot. You just want all of us to fucking die. Like, don't be crazy about it, you know?
What is 8 USC 1312?
No, I know. I've already looked it up.
Yes,
when it's your second time crossing the border illegally, then it becomes a felony.
It can be.
Holy shit, the genocide already happened? Fuck! Wait, what? Oh my God, you guys, we might be all that's left.
Are you going with us? Huh? Are you going with us, Maggie?
Not with you.
Good.
Just one more on Venezuela. The president of Venezuela called the strike on the boat illegal. Are you concerned that Maduro might escalate something?
No, what's illegal are the drugs that were on the boat and the drugs that are being sent into our country and the fact that 300 million people died last year from drugs. That's what.
300 million? What?
People died last year from drugs. That's what's illegal.
Do you think he's not telling the truth when he's...
Are you going with us? Huh? Are you going with us, Maggie? No.
The idea that people, Destiny, Hutch even said the same about you. He agrees with most of your take around this issue in terms of messaging aggressively. He just thinks that in the first 24 hours after a shooting, everyone should condemn violence and hold off on attacking Trump. But this is when the iron is the hottest. This is when they attack us, right? Remember, like they have all the power right now. How did they get it, right? Good artists copy and great artists steal, okay? Where does their political effectiveness come from? What did she say? What did she say immediately? Democrats own this.
Just because you speak your mind.
Democrats own this.
Liberal, whatever you are.
Hold on.
You shouldn't be shot.
But isn't there a problem
with
political?
Democrats own this, okay? Before we knew anything about the shooter. Donald Trump was out there blaming the radical leftists before we knew anything about the shooter at all, right? Well, I understand, again, and I understand the trauma because we exist I understand the trauma because we exist in a Republican-ran media environment. So what you think will happen, and you know what? In some places it will happen. And I'm sympathetic towards this view. I see it happen to me. It's going to happen to me when you see this Pure Show get uploaded. What you think is going to happen is it's going to be a bunch of people like me being asked, do you disavow violence? Do you disavow violence? And I'll say, no, not until Trump does. No, you won't disavow violence? No, that's horrible. That's disgusting. No, that's horrible. And that can be the conservative message, right? That's fine. Fuck it. Let them do the message. But that doesn't have to be the message on our side. The clips that should be spammed on our side is, does Donald Trump disavow the violence? And it should be every single conservative mumbling past that point, refusing to answer, refusing to give a clear... Why won't Donald Trump say all the violence needs to stop? Because that's the easiest thing in the universe. I would argue, okay, if you're a staffer or you know anybody in Congress or whatever, if you want to get in contact with me, if you want talking points or whatever the fuck else or anything to help, okay, I would gladly be a part of this in any way, size, shape, or form. I think a government shutdown should happen over Donald Trump's rhetoric. And you could shut it down over other reasons too, but I think that this is a moral argument. I think it's an optics argument. And I think it's a personal self-preservation argument. And I think it's a health of the democracy argument. Part of the government shutdown should be Donald Trump needs to come out and without blaming the left or the right, you know what? I might, maybe, I don't have to think about this. I might even go as far as he doesn't have to blame the right. Donald Trump should say, all of us need to bring it down. Every single person in this country needs to understand that political violence is not the way that we as Americans get our stuff done, okay? Without blaming Joe Biden, without talking about the radical leftists, without doing anything else, that needs to be a requirement. You should be able to do that. And that's not even a hard ask. That should be an easy ask, okay?
Welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show. Joining me now is my friend and a close friend of Charlie, the great Tucker Carlson. Tucker, thank you so much for being here. And we have 10 minutes, Tucker. And just to give you guys at home a little behind the scenes, the producer just showed Tucker a sign that said rap. And Tucker looked at it and said, this is expand on your point, right? So if we end up going 35 minutes, you'll know it's not the host's fault. It's Tucker Carlson's fault.
We read what we want to read.
But I had, Tucker, I think you know this, and some of you know.
This guy who has thrown America under the bus more than any other ex-political figure.
5 minutes, you'll know
right?
It's not the host's fault. It's Tucker Carlson's fault.
We read what we want to read.
But
just remember, okay? Tucker Carlson was part of Fox News. He was the largest host in the United States of America, okay? Tucker Carlson was a guy who was taking talking points directly from the Trump campaign and knowingly lying to every single person in America relating to voter fraud in the United States, which was one of the driving factors behind one, Americans not believing in the results of the 2020 election. To this day, most Republicans don't. Okay, to this day, percentage of Republicans believe 2020 election results. This was 2023. Percentage of Republicans who think Biden's 2020 win was illegitimate ticks back up to near 70%. This is in 2023. I think it's over 80% now. I feel like I read that recently. Even this number, even 20 or 30% would be insane, right? This is the United States of America, okay? 20 or 30% of the party doesn't believe that the election was legitimate, but it's not even that. It's nearly 70% a year ago, right? Part of the reason why people believe that was because people like Tucker Carlson. Fuck. Where's the slide? Where are my slides? I have the complaint. Where's the PDFs? Bump, 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 ba-dump, ba-dump, bump. Was it this? Oh, my slides. Remember, okay, don't forget, these guys were knowingly lying, okay? They knew. It doesn't find it. God damn it, Carlson. He was saying in text messages to friends, Sidney Powell is lying, by the way. I caught her. It's insane. Bingo, happy to explain, but I never want to lower ourselves if we can help it. A redacted Venezuelan affidavit. It's ludicrous. This is Tucker Carlson to unknown. I don't know who the friend is here, but this is nuts. I just heard Powell claim she's representing herself. Tucker Carlson talking about her nutcase. Isn't this the emperor's new clothes idiom in real life? Talking about Mike Lindell, the My Pillows guy who's fucking insane. All of the people who worked at Fox News all knew that this was fucking bullshit, and they all helped to propagate this lie that led to the insurrection on January 6th, that Donald Trump still believes in today, that most Republicans probably still believe today that the Dominion lawsuit was bullshit, that Dominion machines were rigging the election. And now this guy does propaganda for Russia. Now this guy says that we lie about World War II. Now this guy says, did he say? He had Ian Carroll on to do a bunch of Nazi historical revisionism. I don't know if this is Ian or if this was Tucker Carlson. Did he say that Churchill chose the wrong side? No, there's no way that Tucker Carlson said that. It must have been Ian Carroll or someone else. There's no way that Tucker said that. But they do this thing where like he might have been the real villain. Yeah. And now this guy is in the White House, sipping tea, in between his trips to grocery stores in St. Petersburg and Moscow, talking about how great Russia is. Now he's talking to the American people like he's part of the administration again.
Tucker, I think you know this, and some of you know this because I wrote about it on X.com. But when X.com was Twitter, I did an interview with the Tucker Carlson Tonight Show on Fox News, and I got a message from a guy named Charlie Kirk that said, "You did a great job. I really liked what you said, and let's keep in touch." And that began the start of my friendship with Charlie Kirk. It was the first time I'd ever communicated with Charlie Kirk. So you've known him for a long time. You talked to him about a lot of issues, and I want to talk in part about how to honor Charlie's legacy, because I think that he modeled civil discourse within the right.
Destiny, a huge issue is whether you think Trump won because of MAGA rhetoric/violence. Over 75% of incumbent governments were removed from office due to COVID, which is insane. The economy is the biggest issue, and the polls are reflecting that. I agree with you, but that's only because we've taken it for granted that all we can do is fight on the political level because of how stable the American political system is, right? If you go to the gym to work out, you're going to be min-maxing you don't have to min-max, but you're going to try to have an effective program. You're going to try to incorporate a good diet, and you're going to try to have an appropriate amount of rest, whether that means sleeping or time between workouts, right? At no point in your lifting are you going to be thinking about doing rehab lifts if your knee gets shattered, unless you've broken your knee, right? You would never think about this. Or how do I lift when I'm also fighting Parkinson's disease? Or how do I lift when I have some obscure health thing? Because you take that for granted that you're a healthy person, right? When America is a healthy democracy, we can vote or unvote based on things like the economy. But right now, these guys are attacking the core fundamental parts of our democracy. And maybe we're already past that point, but we can't have ordinary conversations about the economy and stuff like that if we are corroding the fundamental aspects of our democracy that allow us to engage in those types of political battles, right? We have to be cognizant of the underlying health of our institutions. Part of those institutions might be freedom of speech, the executive branch not arresting political opponents and stuff like that. And generally we just take that for granted because this country was awesome. But if that starts to corrode, we have to correct that. That's so important.
That there were big disagreements on all these issues, but he thought we were all on the same team and we could debate this stuff, but actually have a drink at the end of the day and recognize that we were all trying to accomplish fundamentally the good of the country. So I want to talk a little bit about that. Before I get there.
Seems like all the violence on our side is coming from far leftists who you always argue aren't on our side at all, illiberal, etc. Why not distance yourself from the violence / paint it as far leftist? You can, but that doesn't matter that much. When we paint them as far left, we should do that for us to build a better movement for us. That's not to help them. And I'm certainly not going to attack the far left when they're the ones right now that are encouraging the violence. Why would I do that? They're trying to rope us all together anyway, and they don't give a fuck if we separate ourselves from the far left. They're going to still make the same accusations. When Obama, I understand some of you, I don't mean to be derogatory towards age. I understand some of you guys might be younger, in your mid-early 20s, but when Obama was president, I'm not exaggerating when I say that Obama was constantly cast aside as a socialist and a communist. This is the Communist Party, the Socialist Party. Rush Limbaugh said it all the time. California is what he would call California. They would talk about this stuff all the time. The Michael Savage called them the Democrats or the Demon Cats sometimes. These people engage in this rhetoric constantly.
He accepted there were big disagreements.
CNN was called the Commie News Network. I don't remember if that was just my mom that said that or if that was a Rush Limbaugh one too. People said this shit all the time. And Obama was so far from any kind of socialism or communism or whatever, right? Does that mean it's not good to gang up on Hassan for his violent rhetoric right now? I mean, if people want to, I think it's okay. But I have no interest in it right now. Absolutely not. I don't give a fuck about. I think that Hassan is part of the problem, but now we're past his part of the problem. Like, at least on Twitch, Hassan is the part of the problem in that people like XQC, who, and I understand maybe you guys don't agree on this. I don't think XQC is a bad or immoral person. I do think he, quote unquote, sees himself as a quote unquote like a center left guy who now feels like he's far right or whatever. And XQC would be correct if Hassan was the average center left person. But Twitch has allowed that delusion to persist because Twitch has given cover to Hassan by keeping me banned. And then all of the other people that orbit Hassan just repeat his politics, 100% of the time. So the only political polls that you have, your multipolar world on Twitch is between Hassan Piker and his lackeys, his losers, his flunkies, the Denims and the Mike from PAs. And then you have fucking Asmongold, who is just MAGA incarnate. And then like Tectone, I guess, in these people.
It's on all these issues, but he thought we were all on the same team and we could debate this stuff, but actually have a drink at the end of the day and recognize that we were all trying to accomplish fundamentally the good of the country. So I want to talk a little bit about that. Before I get there, just tell me about your buddy, Charlie Kirk. What was he like? What did people who only know him from...
Aren't you exaggerating a bit with the Obama stuff? Back when I used to watch Ben Shapiro, I don't remember him ever saying that Obama was a communist. I'm being honest, I don't remember. Was Ben Shapiro that big of a thing when Obama was in office? I don't remember knowing about or hearing about Ben Shapiro much. Does anybody know? I just don't remember. I don't think I ever listened to Ben Shapiro through Obama's administration. Growing up, I never really heard him on the radio. I don't remember I don't even know if he was on TV anywhere. Maybe he was. Maybe the second term. I just don't remember Ben Shapiro being that big in the media. Maybe he was there somewhere, but... Destiny, seems like people like Hassan are easily weaponized to demonize the entire left wing. There has to be value in removing them, moving that from play, right? Yes, I agree, and we should keep doing that, but that's a different conversation than the one that we're having right now, okay? I'm not worried. Fuck, everything feels so performative. Dude, I'm going to take acting classes over the month, and I'm going to come back and be able to cry for you guys, okay? Because I need to be able to do a better job of this, but I don't feel like Hassan is contributing much to my chances of getting murdered, okay? When I do the TPUSA event we were supposed to do in 3 days, that's still going on, and I'll be there, okay? And hopefully it's not the last thing I ever do, but I don't feel like Hassan is contributing much to me getting murdered there. I do feel like the president of the United States is, and all of these guys are, right? That's the difference. Like, the Hassan stuff is bad, and we need to disband. He's definitely contributed to the environment that we're in now, but this is the president. It's supposed to be my president as well, right? Remember they would say that? Donald Trump is your president. Sure as fuck doesn't feel like it. Doesn't feel like he's looking out for every American right now.
About a lot of issues, and I want to talk in part about how to honor Charlie's legacy, because I think that he modeled civil discourse within the right. He accepted there were big disagreements on all these issues, but he thought we were all on the same team and we could debate this stuff, but actually have a drink at the end of the day and recognize that we were all trying to accomplish fundamentally the good of the country. So I want to talk a little bit about that. Before I get there, just tell me about your buddy, Charlie Kirk. What was he like? What did people who only know him from radio or TV not appreciate about what a good guy was?
That he's Christian.